Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 4, Text number 14, in the matter of the Amsaguhya prayers. Yaha samutpatitam deha akashan manyumulbanam Atma jignasaya yache sagunanati vartade. Translation and purport by Divine Gethesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. One who inquires into self-realization and thus subdues his powerful anger, which awakens suddenly in the body as if falling from the sky, transcend the influence of the modes of material nature. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Purport. When one becomes angry, he forgets himself and his situation. But if one is able to consider his situation by knowledge, one transcends the influence of the modes of material nature. One is always a servant of lusty desire, anger, greed, illusion, envy, and so forth. But if one obtains sufficient strength in spiritual advancement, one can control them. One who obtains such control will always be transcendently situated, untouched by the modes of material nature. This is only possible when one fully engages in the service of the Lord. As the Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita 14.26, Mam cheo vivacharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatitaitam brahmabhuyaya kalpade. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the spiritual platform. By engaging one in devotional service, the Krishna consciousness movement keeps one always transcendental to anger, greed, lust, envy, and so forth. One must perform devotional service because otherwise one will become victimized by the modes of material nature. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. I'll also read the verse from the Bhagavad Gita which Prabhupada is quoting here, 14.26. Very nicely Prabhupada explained. Few sentences I will read. Bhagavad Gita 14.26 purport. This verse is a reply to Arjuna's third question. What is the means of attaining transcendental position? As explained before, material world is acting under the spell of the modes of material nature. One should not be disturbed by the activities of the modes of nature. Instead, putting his consciousness into such activities, he may transfer his consciousness to Krishna activities. One who is engaged in the service of any of the forms of Krishna or his plenary expansion is considered to be transcendentally situated. One should also note that all forms of Krishna are fully transcendental, blissful, full of knowledge, and eternal. So, if one engages himself in the service of Krishna or his plenary expansion with unfailing determination, although these modes of material nature are very difficult to overcome, he can overcome them easily. Then Prabhupada writes, one who surrenders unto Krishna at once surmounts the influence of the modes of nature. To be in Krishna consciousness or in devotional service means to acquire the equality of Krishna. The Lord says that His nature is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge, and the living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme, as gold particles are part of gold mine. Thus, the qualification is to become Brahman or freed from material contamination. So like that, these are the few statements. Purport, very nice purport that is also available. Because Prabhupada quotes this verse in many, many places. mamshyo vyabhicharena. Because we are all living in this material world, we will be conducted by the three modes of material nature. Material world is full of duality. So, how to get over this? How to get away from this? That's why Prabhupada there also he quotes, Devi Esha Gunamayi Mama Maya Durataya. That also Krishna says in the 7th chapter. Mamevai prapadyante Maya metam tarantite. Just by surrendering to Krishna. So surrendering to Krishna means surrendering to the process which Krishna has given us and which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has nicely, practically demonstrated. He himself performed this Navavida Bhakti and he has taught his disciple to practice the practical process of devotional service. So, because Krishna also says in the Bhagavad, because this verse speaks, today's verse, we all know the background here, last few verses we have been hearing, how the Prachetas, they had gone for austerity to the seas, and his father, king, he also renounced the kingdom at that time. Nobody was there to look after the kingdom. So all the weeds were growing unnecessarily. When the Prachetas came out of the austerity, they were very angry. Correct? And with the tapas shakti we heard in the earlier verses, they were to burn all the trees, plants, vegetation. At that point of time, King Soma, the king of vegetation, he was preaching to Prachetas. So this is continuing, and from next verses we'll see he's giving some very nice alternative to pacify their anger, actually, Prachetas. So here it is mentioned that one who inquires into self-realization and thus subdues his powerful anger. So anger, that's why if you see in the purport, today's purport, Prabhupada 2 times he brings out the same point. But if one obtains sufficient strength in spiritual advancement, one can control them. He says, and below also he says, at the end of the purport, by engaging one in devotional service, the Krishna consciousness movement keeps one always transcendental to anger, greed, lust, envy, and so forth. So these are the real enemies seated within us. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, like this. And it's very difficult to get away from this unless we are taking to the process of devotional service. This verse directly says, we can transcend the influence of the modes of nature. Just like how this anger comes, that is also mentioned here, which awakens suddenly in the body as if falling from the sky. Suddenly something happens. Today in this world we come across, correct? Some small fighting between brothers, sisters. Somebody goes to harm the other. Because we don't want to be, we don't want to get angry. We always try, but something happens. Actually, because we have come under the influence of these three guna, three modes of material nature. So, Arjuna's question in the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita was how to transcend these three modes of material nature. That chapter is also called the three modes of material nature. So, that is last but one verse, Prabhupada, which he has quoted here. So, Krishna also in the 3rd chapter itself he begins, Kamesha Krodesha Rajoguna Samudva. This Kama and Krodha, they arise because of Rajoguna. Kamesha Krodesha Rajoguna Samudbhava Mahasano Mahapapma Vidiyenam Ivairinam. Prabhupada translates the Supreme Personal, because a verse before Arjuna is asking, I am trying to control my senses, but I am failing. Why Krishna? So that's why Krishna speaks here. Sri Bhagavan Vacha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with material mode of passion, because the desire, Kama is desire, material desire. Not that always our desire will be satisfied. So when our desires are not satisfied, material desires are not satisfied, immediately anger comes. That's why Krishna says, it is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with material mode of passion and later transformed into wrath, anger, and which is all devouring sinful enemy of this world. Devouring enemy, just like fire, forest fire, it devours the whole forest. Nobody goes to forest to set fire, correct? It happens automatically. The moment fire comes, particularly all the animals, snakes and all, they just can't escape. Wherever they run, they will be burnt. Similarly, in that purport also Prabhupada writes, this kama and krodha, kama particularly, Prabhupada writes, it will kill the urge for self-realization. Because we are not this body, we are all spirit, soul, we are Brahman. We have to act on that Brahman platform. But because we are engaged in this body, we come under the influence of the material nature, and all this kama, krodha, lobha, moha, all this comes about. These are the 6 enemies. Like that in many places it is mentioned. Also in the 16th chapter. 16th chapter also, qualities of divine and demonic qualities are mentioned. There in the 21st verse also Krishna says, Trividam naraka sedhyam dwaram nashanam atmanaha, again atmanaha, kama krodha tata lobha tasmadetat trayam tvadit. The 3 gates leading to hell: lust, anger and greed. This is also brought out in many places in the Vedic literature. Every sane man should give up these, every sane man should give these up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. Soul will be degraded. We are all spirit, soul, we are part and parcel of God, like Prabhupada writes in the 1426 purport also. Just like a gold particle is also having all the characteristics of gold, mine, but in very limited quantity. Similarly, we are all good. Krishna is all good, God is all good. But because we have got this material body, we are engaged in this material body, and we come under the influence of the 3 modes of material nature, actually all these things comes about. Otherwise, spirit soul is pure. Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram. Krishna is supremely pure. We are also pure. We are all his Amsha, Mamai Vamsha Jiva Loke. We are contaminated because we are acting in this material world. So, Prabhupada, many places they explain, see, to just understand I am Brahman, I am spirit, soul is not sufficient. Just like we have been hearing, Mayavadi, they also have this understanding, impersonalist. But we have to act on that platform, Brahman platform. What is that Brahman platform? That is, as Brahman, we engage in practical devotional service. So when we engage our senses in the service of the satisfaction of the Lord, for the pleasure of the Lord, that is devotional service. Rishi Kena Rishi Kesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. So we have to engage all our senses. So Bhaktivedanta Thakur's very nice song is there. Ghare thako, vane thako, sadari bole dako. Whether you are a householder, whether you are sannyasi, whatever you are, Sada, always we have to chant Hari, Hari, Bole Dako. We have to keep on constantly chanting Hari Krishna, Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So that will keep us in the spiritual platform. And there it says, that song, whether we are in a distress condition or in a happy condition. Because again in this material world, always something, not that always we will be having pleasure or happiness, no. Even as a spiritualist, we will undergo through a lot of turbulence in our spiritual life, correct? But whatever it is, we have to chant, whether we are in a distress condition or in happiness condition, we have to keep chanting this Hare Krishna Mahamantra and engage in devotional service. And there it is mentioned, whether you are in a happy or distressed condition, you never forget to chant the names of Lord Hari. So, Krishna consciousness nourishment is engaging in the Navavida Bhakti, and we have to control, we have to discipline our life. This is very important. System. That's why Vaidhi Bhakti, we are all sadhakas. Day in, day out, we have to do our morning program. There is no exception actually. Just like the karmis, they work very hard. Actually, they work very hard. Because they get some rasa, they get some enjoyment. Correct? So we are also working hard. So that's why you see, karmis, these materialists, whenever they get holiday, they want to run away from the city or where they want to go away. Prabhupada always cites this, correct? In the Western world particularly, now India is also basically 5-day week and all. Now they are talking of 4-day week, 3-day week and all like that. Nobody wants to work actually. But material world is designed in such a way, you have to work to get your food. That's why the moment they get some holiday, they want to go to resort, they want to go for swimming or whatever it is, they want to go. So this is what is happening. Because by nature we are not supposed to work so hard like hawks and dogs. Rishabhdev says, this human form of life is not meant for working like dogs and hawks. Human life is meant for understanding the Brahman. Tapo divyam putraka ena shuddham. Brahma saukyam tam anantam. The spiritual happiness is anantam, is unlimited. There is some happiness in this material world. That's why people are working. That's why people are having hope against hope. They are trying something, different thing they are trying. They are changing job. They are doing this. So many things, correct? Changing car, changing house. Want to upgrade their house, upgrade their car, all these things. And that gives some happiness to them. But it's all flickering. It comes and goes. But by nature we are all looking for that ananda. But we want that uninterrupted ananda. So that is possible by engaging in devotional service. So just like, see, when we are thirsty, particularly this summer is setting up here. When you are thirsty, you take water, it gives a lot of pleasure, correct? Krishna says, I am the taste of water also. See, everything actually, there is a Krishna-centric actually. We relish that water. If the hot sun, if you are feeling thirsty, somebody comes and gives some, maybe even milk or tea or coffee, we don't want that. We want water, because water has got that special characteristics. Similarly, when we relish devotional service, when we come to that platform, right now we are in the disease stage, we are not feeling that real joy. Krishna, that also he says, Susukam kartam avayam, devotional service is performed very joyfully. Are we feeling that joy? We are not feeling full joy at least. Some joy, some we get, because we are coming in touch with Brahman. So if our soul is awakened, then we will relish. That's why Rupa Goswami says, why I just got one tongue and 2 ears. If I have millions and tongues and trillions of ears, I can chant and relish the holy name of the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada says, I have given only 16 rounds to my disciples. That itself they are finding it difficult to chant. See? Because we have not developed the taste. If you have the taste, just like small children, when we are small children, when we get ice cream or something like that, some sweet meat to eat, we'll little by little we'll eat and we'll enjoy, relish that. We don't want to finish off in one go. So it's like that. So that's why Lord Krishna, he appeared 5,000 years before. He demonstrated so many leelas, pastimes. Actually, he is inviting us to his kingdom, spiritual world, back home, back to Godhead. Because unless we go to spiritual world, whatever material adjustment we make here, it will not make us happy actually. Because Krishna himself says this, metal world is dukkale mashashvatam. It is full of anxiety. Everybody is anxious in this world. Who can be free of anxiety? Nobody can say I am free of anxiety. Just like we had all this pandemic, now third year is going on. It's almost coming to an end, somebody says we are going to get next wave, whatever it is. At least it is, people are now leading a normal life. But suddenly you see, the Russian and Ukraine war has begun. So there is no peace actually in this world. You cannot expect peace in this. Just like we are trying to get water in the desert. There is no water in the desert. There is no happiness in this material world. So we have to be convinced of this fact. We should have this conviction. So this conviction comes by practicing the process which Srila Prabhupada has given. By practically engaging in devotional service, we will get this conviction actually. Just like Haridas Thakura's example. He was allured by a prostitute, Maya Devi, the dead of the night. But he was not perturbed, he was just chanting, he was fixed in chanting 300,000 times names of Lord. So he said, after I finish my round, we can sense enjoyment. We know, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days passed. And just by hearing the pure chanting of Haridas Thakura, she also became a devotee. This is the power of devotional service. So somehow or other, we have to engage all our mind, or we have to engage our mind and all our senses in doing some service for the Lord. It's not that this service or that service. Krishna is very pleased if we are engaged in serving Him. Any service which you like, which has been given to you, you just get into deep. We have to be absorbed. Spiritual life means absorption. Just like these karmis, materialists, they are so absorbed. From the morning till night, they work hard. Correct? Particularly rich people. Actually, they don't even enjoy the house, the maids and other cooks, and they will be enjoying the big villa and all these things. Because they are running one after another, meeting, this, traveling, that. That's all. Where is their enjoyment? This is all actually big illusion. So, that's why Ambarish Maharaj demonstrated that Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindayo. So, we have to engage all our senses in the service of the Lord. Ambarish Maharaj was a king. He had a lot of opulence, but he used all his senses in the service of the Lord. In the 9th canto of the Bhagavatam, very elaborately it is explained. So, Prabhupada then he says, so we have to pray constantly to Krishna to be free from these enemies. So when we go in front of the Lord, when we go in front of the deities, when we go in front of Srila Prabhupada, see, all of us have this weakness in this world. So we have to pray by just sincerely offering prayer and try to follow the instruction given by Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. Actually, we can get away from this. Otherwise, it's very, very difficult. Then my existence will be purified. Then we will come to that spiritual platform. Spiritual platform, Krishna also explains, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Na Soshati Na Kankshati Samasarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktil Labate Param. So, one who comes to that actually in that platform only we can render devotional service. By the causeless mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we are trying to do Vaidhi Bhakti. One who is that transcendently situated, we are not transcendently situated, at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed towards every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. So, we should have that goal. we should reach that platform of Brahman. We should reach that platform of pure devotional service. Srila Prabhupada in many places he says, correct? Just like in the early days when he was preaching in the Western world, lot of young American boys, girls, European boys and girls, they were taking to Krishna consciousness. Just by hearing Srila Prabhupada, just adopting the process given by Prabhupada, just by chanting Hare Krishna, they are all becoming purified in very short span, correct? So this so Prabhupada says in one place, we have got so many European and American boys and girls. They have given up their old habits. All of us also had very bad habits and all. Now also we have bad habits. But earlier we had so horrible habits. So we are giving up those things because we are tasting some higher. We have got this higher taste by Prabhupada and Krishna's mercy. We are able to give up the older taste, older habit. And they have come to spiritual platform or Brahman platform. We have so many branches. Prabhupada says, it is a fact, it is not a story. See, Prabhupada says, it's a fact. You can see how we all get, if you go back in our life itself, how we were before coming in touch with Krishna consciousness and how we are now. Long way to go, but still we can see some improvement happening. At least we understood theoretically what we have fixed our goal at least. So a lot of people don't know the ultimate goal of life. What is the supreme goal? Nobody knows today. But everybody is running up and down, going here and there. So, so Krishna consciousness is based on Bhagavad Gita. It is based on Vedic literature. It is based on Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's a process. It's a pure science. So if we sincerely and seriously practice, there will be change in our heart. We have been hearing that, correct? And this is simply possible by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has mercifully given us. A very simple process. But we can get the highest benefit. Kalirdosha nide rajan asti eko mahadguna kirtana deva Krishna se mukta sangapar. Just by chanting Krishna's name, we can get mukti, we can get liberation, we can get out of this material existence actually. Material existence is like a blazing fire. So this cheto darpana marjanam, when we chant, our chitta, our consciousness, our heart get purified. And there it is mentioned that it extinguishes the blazing fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This birth and death, janma, mrityu, jara, vyadi, nobody can escape in this world unless somehow or other we remember Krishna at the end of our life. So for that we have to practice. That is what we are doing here. We have to day in, day out do this sadhana bhakti. When we are doing this sadhana bhakti, all this contamination, all these anarthas will go away. Then we will develop taste and all the different process. Then we will reach Krishna Prema. Prabhupada in one place he says, Hare Krishna movement is very nice, authorized, spiritual, simple and sublime. In the lecture Prabhupada says this. See? Hare Krishna movement is very nice. So that's why anybody takes to this, whether it's a small girl, boy, or youth, or old man, anybody takes. So it's very nice, is authorized. So whatever is we are hearing and reading, it's all from the scriptures. Prabhupada always said, whenever you are preaching, whenever you are speaking something, you have to support it with a verse from the Vedic literature. Then it will become authentic. So we are not bluffing something, you do this, you will get. No. It's very authorized. Prabhupada lecture, if you see, repeatedly goes through like that. And it's spiritual. Nothing to, though the activities, what we are doing in devotional service, in Bhakti Yoga, looks like we are also doing the same thing like the karmis outside. But it's spiritual. Why? Because it is not for us. It is for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna. So it is spiritual. And it is simple. It's very simple. Chanting Hare Krishna, anybody can chant. You go and tell everybody, that is our duty actually. Somebody may take, somebody may not take. But they will all try. It's very simple. It's not like we are reading here that Pracheta, they went to cease to perform austerity. Where we can go all these things? We can't do all these things in Kali Yuga now. It's impossible. And then Prabhupada says, and it is sublime. And how is it? All at a time. Prabhupada writes there. Hare Krishna movement is very nice, authorized, spiritual, simple and sublime, all at a time. So if we take to this, we'll get all this benefit. Then our life will be successful. So these are some of the points. So this anger particularly. But angry, we can become, there are many examples, already time is up. We know in the scriptures how Hanuman got angry. He was not angry for his insult, or like we have been hearing Dhruva Maharaj, fame, infame, or all. He was not affected by all these things. Because he was transcendently situated, he saw the Lord face to face. So, but when Hanuman, Prabhupada always gives the example of anger, it's a transcendental anger. Because Mother Sita was taken away by Ravana. Of course, original Sita cannot be touched by Ravana. And he became so angry, he set out to Lanka and he wanted to burn. Like Ambarish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni example also. Durvasa became angry. Ambarish Maharaj, a devotee, he had all the devotional qualification. He never became angry. So, like that, all these good qualities will come about automatically if we take to the process of devotional service. Yasyasta bhakti bhagavati akinchana sarvae gune tatta samaste sura haro bhaktasya kuto mahadguna manoratena siddhi davata bari. That is, all the qualities even of the demigod exalted devatas will imbibe. On the other hand, if somebody is not become a devotee of Lord, whatever quality, aro abhaktasya kuto mahadguna, it has no value actually. So these are some of the points. I'll stop here. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.